In a world driven by data, dreams, and dazzling screens, these men turned code into kingdoms. They didn't just build companies. They built empires that now shape how billions live, work, and think. From Elon Musk's rockets piercing the sky to Jensen Huang's chips powering the AI revolution, their wealth is more than numbers. It's power, vision, and obsession. But here's the real question: who truly rules the digital age in 2025? Stay with me, because what you're about to see might just change how you look at technology and those who control it. 6. Sergey Brin, the visionary who gave the world its digital eyes ***. Behind every Google search, there's a quiet genius who believed that information should flow freely, that the world's knowledge shouldn't be trapped in books or buried on forgotten web pages. Sergey Brin, the man who helped turn curiosity into currency, has always been the silent half of a revolution. While Larry Page dreamed in algorithms, Brin dreamed in possibilities. Together, they didn't just build a search engine, they built humanity's digital memory. But Sergey's story isn't about fame or flash. It's about vision. Born in Moscow, raised in the shadow of political constraint, he grew up with a mind that refused to accept limits. When he arrived in America, he didn't just find freedom, he redefined it through code. His curiosity became a compass, pointing toward a world where technology could help people find answers, connections, even meaning. Unlike other billionaires who chased headlines, Sergey chased ideas. While many saw Google as a business, he saw it as an experiment in human understanding. He pushed for moonshot projects, self-driving cars, augmented reality, life extension research, because for him, the future wasn't something to predict, it was something to build. "Why not?" was his favorite question, and behind that simple phrase was a belief that technology should elevate the human spirit, not just efficiency. Today, in 2025, Brin's wealth hovers around $130 billion. But his real fortune lies elsewhere, in the millions of daily moments where someone finds an answer, starts a business, or reunites with a lost piece of their past through a Google search. His name may not dominate headlines like Musk or Zuckerberg, but his influence shapes the very fabric of our digital existence. Think about it. Every time you type into that little white box, you're using a piece of Sergey Brin's imagination. You're stepping into the mind of a man who believed knowledge should be a right, not a privilege. And maybe that's the most powerful kind of wealth, not the kind measured in dollars, but in impact. Because Sergey Brin didn't just help us see the internet. He helped us see the world, and ourselves, a little more clearly. 7. Steve Ballmer, the relentless energy behind Microsoft's billion-dollar legacy ***. If passion could be bottled and sold, Steve Ballmer would be the world's richest man just from that alone. You don't watch Ballmer, you feel him. The man who once screamed, "Developers! Developers! Developers!" on stage wasn't putting on a show. He was the show. In an industry built on quiet coding and silent innovation, Ballmer roared his way into history, a storm of energy, strategy, and sheer willpower. Before the world knew him, as the exuberant billionaire, Ballmer was the math prodigy from Detroit who left Stanford's MBA program to join a young Bill Gates at Microsoft. No one could have predicted that the loud, animated guy would become the engine that powered one of the most successful companies in the world. Gates was the brain, Ballmer was the heartbeat. And together, they turned a small startup into the software empire that defined a generation. When he became CEO in 2000, Microsoft was at a crossroads. The dot-com bubble was bursting, Apple was rising, and Google was rewriting the internet. Ballmer's reign was anything but easy. He made bold, sometimes controversial moves, pushing Windows and Office to global dominance, while struggling to catch up in mobile and search. But if there's one thing Ballmer never did, it was give up. His leadership wasn't polished, but it was raw, real, and relentlessly human. His critics said he was too loud, too emotional, too old school for Silicon Valley's sleek, quiet culture. But here's the thing, Ballmer didn't care. He was never trying to be the next Steve Jobs. He was trying to be the best Steve Ballmer. And that authenticity paid off. By the time he stepped down in 2014, Microsoft's profits had tripled, and its foundation for cloud computing and enterprise software had been cemented, setting the stage for Satya Nadella's future success. Today, in 2025, Steve Ballmer's net worth sits comfortably above $125 billion. Yet, when he's seen courtside cheering for his NBA team, the Los Angeles Clippers, it's clear that money isn't what fuels him. It's momentum. The same unstoppable energy that drove him through decades of tech wars now radiates through his love for sports, philanthropy, and education. Ballmer reminds us of something easy to forget in a digital world. Success isn't always about being the smartest in the room. Sometimes, it's about being the most alive. And no one, absolutely no one, embodies that better than Steve Ballmer. 8. Jensen Huang, the visionary who turned silicon into intelligence ***. Imagine betting your entire future on an idea no one believed in. Chips meant for gamers that would someday teach machines to think. That's exactly what Jensen Huang did. He's not just the founder of NVIDIA. He's the man who rewired the digital brain of our century. While the world raced to make computers faster, Huang was quietly building something smarter, the foundation of artificial intelligence itself. Born in Taiwan and raised in America, Jensen's journey wasn't glamorous. He started out cleaning tables at a Denny's, a kid with a dream bigger than the small town he lived in. But beneath that calm, polite demeanor was a fire that refused to die out. He didn't just want success. He wanted to create something that would outlive him. In 1993, he co-founded NVIDIA in a modest diner booth, long before the world even knew it needed what he was building. At first, NVIDIA made graphics cards for gamers. But Jensen saw something no one else did, a hidden power in those chips. They weren't just tools for entertainment. They could process massive amounts of data simultaneously. That idea would eventually become the backbone of artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, and the most advanced supercomputers ever made. When the world shifted toward AI, Jensen wasn't following the wave. He was the wave. What makes him special isn't just his intellect. It's his storytelling. Every time he steps on stage in that trademark black leather jacket, he doesn't sound like a CEO reading a script. He sounds like a dreamer unveiling the future. To his engineers, he's not just a boss. He's a visionary who makes them believe they're part of something far larger than code or silicon. By 2025, Jensen Huang's net worth has soared past $110 billion, and NVIDIA has become one of the most powerful companies on the planet, not just in gaming or hardware, but in shaping the very concept of intelligence. Yet Huang's story isn't just about money, it's about possibility. He turned machines into learners, and in doing so, turned imagination into one of humanity's greatest tools. So the next time you see an AI-generated image, a robot that learns, or a car that drives itself, remember, it all traces back to one man's obsession. Jensen Huang didn't just build chips. He built the future, one brilliant, parallel thought at a time. 9. Michael Dell, the quiet architect of digital power ***. Not every billionaire needs to shout to be heard. Some change the world in silence, through persistence, precision, and purpose. Michael Dell is one of those rare few. While others built flashy empires in the spotlight, Dell built a foundation beneath it, a technological backbone supporting millions of businesses, governments, and homes across the globe. His name might not dominate headlines like Musk or Zuckerberg, but his influence? It's everywhere. Picture this. A 19-year-old college kid in a cramped University of Texas dorm room, tinkering with computers while the rest of the world partied. That's where it began. With just $1,000, Michael Dell started building and selling custom PCs directly to customers, cutting out the middlemen and creating a new kind of business model. It was bold. It was risky. It was genius. By the time most students were still figuring out their majors, Dell had built a multi-million-dollar company. His idea was simple but revolutionary. Give people what they actually need, not what big corporations think they need. That philosophy turned Dell Computers into one of the most successful tech companies of the 1990s and early 2000s. But what's remarkable isn't just how he built it, it's how he rebuilt it. When the PC market began to crumble and competitors shifted towards software or services, most CEOs would have cashed out. Michael Dell didn't. He doubled down. In 2013, he took his company private in a $24 billion deal, one of the boldest moves in corporate history. The world called him crazy. But a few years later, Dell Technologies re-emerged stronger than ever, expanding into cloud computing, data storage, and cybersecurity. That quiet dorm room tinkerer had evolved into a digital empire builder. By 2025, Michael Dell's net worth has surpassed $95 billion, yet you'd hardly know it from looking at him. No yachts, no wild parties, no space rockets, just a man focused on long-term vision and value. He's not chasing fame, he's chasing legacy. And that's what makes him so fascinating. Dell doesn't scream innovation, he embodies it. He reminds us that real power doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes, it comes with consistency, clarity, and the courage to bet on yourself when no one else will. So the next time you power up your laptop or upload a file to the cloud, remember, behind that quiet hum of technology is the echo of one man's belief that the future isn't built in boardrooms or headlines, but in the persistence of those who never stop creating. 10. Bill Gates, the reluctant king of tech who changed the world twice ***. What if I told you that the man who built the digital world now spends his fortune trying to save the real one? That's Bill Gates, the quiet storm behind Microsoft, a tech visionary who rewrote the rules of innovation, wealth, and even philanthropy. You think you know him, the computer nerd, the Windows guy, but the story of Bill Gates is far deeper, more human, and more surprising than most people realize. Born in Seattle, Washington, in 1955, young Bill wasn't the type to blend in. He was the kind of kid who would sneak into computer labs at night just to learn how they worked. When most teenagers were worrying about grades or girlfriends, Gates was already obsessed with code, not just as a language of machines, but as a key to reshape the future. By the time he dropped out of Harvard to start Microsoft with his childhood friend Paul Allen, he wasn't chasing a dream. He was chasing destiny. And destiny came fast. Microsoft didn't just make software, it made an empire. Windows became the backbone of modern computing, powering homes, offices, and industries across the world. Gates wasn't merely selling a product, he was selling access to a new kind of freedom, the digital frontier. By the 1990s, he wasn't just the richest man alive, he was the face of the tech revolution. People called him a genius, a monopolist, a visionary, and sometimes all three in the same breath. But here's where the story twists. When most billionaires cling to power, Gates did something few could imagine. He stepped away. In 2008, he left Microsoft's daily operations to dedicate himself to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a move that would redefine what it means to be a billionaire. Instead of chasing more wealth, he began chasing solutions to the world's hardest problems: disease, poverty, and inequality. He turned his analytical mind from code to compassion, applying the same precision that built Microsoft to fighting malaria, improving global education, and funding climate innovation. And yet, despite his transformation, the public remains divided. Some see him as a modern saint, others question his motives. Maybe that's the price of being a titan. You're too big for one truth. But love him or doubt him, you can't deny his impact. Bill Gates built the software that connected the world, and then used his fortune to try to heal it. So next time you click a mouse, open a document, or read an article online, remember, it all traces back to a boy from Seattle who saw not what computers were, but what they could become. Gates didn't just write code, he wrote history, and he's still editing the next chapter. 5. Larry Page, the quiet genius who taught the world to search ***. What if the world's most powerful man barely speaks at all? Larry Page doesn't need the spotlight, because he built the algorithms that decide who gets it. The co-founder of Google isn't just one of the richest people alive. He's one of the most quietly influential minds in modern history. In 2025, while his fortune sits well above $130 billion, Larry Page lives far from the chaos of Silicon Valley, watching the digital empire he imagined decades ago continue to shape every question, every answer, every thought that crosses the internet. Page's story begins not with money, but with curiosity, the kind that keeps a kid awake at night, wondering how things work. He grew up in a home filled with computers before most people even knew what one looked like. By the time he got to Stanford, he wasn't chasing grades, he was chasing a way to organize the world's chaos. And in 1998, alongside Sergey Brin, he did exactly that. Together, they built Google, not just a company, but a compass for the modern age. But Larry Page's true genius isn't in what he built, it's in how he thinks. While others saw the internet as a marketplace, he saw it as a living organism. He wanted to understand how information connected, evolved, and spread, and then teach a machine to do the same. The result was PageRank, the algorithm that revolutionized how we find knowledge. Every search, every click, every voice command you make today still carries his fingerprint. And yet, as Google grew into a trillion-dollar titan, Larry Page began to fade from public view. He didn't crave fame, he craved creation. He quietly shifted his focus toward moonshot projects, ideas so wild they bordered on science fiction. Flying cars through Kitty Hawk, AI-driven health research via Calico, and even self-replicating robots. He wanted to build technology that outlasted him, systems that could improve the human condition, not just the human wallet. What makes Larry Page fascinating isn't his wealth, it's his detachment from it. He doesn't boast, doesn't tweet, doesn't perform. While other billionaires fight for headlines, Page hides in the shadows, letting his ideas speak louder than his words. But don't mistake his silence for absence, because every digital pulse of modern life still echoes his influence. So, ask yourself, what's more powerful, a man who commands attention, or one whose inventions command the world? Larry Page chose the latter. And maybe that's the secret to his success, not to dominate the noise, but to design the system that organizes it. 4. Jeff Bezos, the relentless dreamer who turned the sky into his playground ***. What drives a man who already conquered Earth? For Jeff Bezos, the answer is simple: the stars. In 2025, the Amazon founder isn't just one of the richest men alive. With a fortune hovering near $180 billion, he's a man who sees the entire planet as just one small part of his business map. From selling books out of a garage to launching rockets beyond the stratosphere, Bezos has turned ambition into an art form, and he's nowhere near finished. It's easy to forget that Bezos began his empire with an idea most people laughed at: selling books online. Back in 1994, that sounded absurd. But Bezos wasn't interested in short-term wins. He was building the foundation for something colossal. He used to say, "Your margin is my opportunity." And that philosophy became Amazon's heartbeat. Every click, every delivery, Every Prime subscription was a brick in a kingdom that now powers global commerce, cloud computing, and even entertainment. But here's what makes Bezos fascinating. His obsession isn't money. It's legacy. While other billionaires play for status, he plays for time. In the deserts of Texas, he's building a 10,000-year clock, a monument to long-term thinking. And through his space company, Blue Origin, he's chasing something even bolder, to make humanity a multiplanetary species. He doesn't talk about the future as an idea. He treats it as a schedule. Yet behind the polished image of precision and control lies a man who's battled just as hard as he's built. The public saw him go through divorce, face criticism for Amazon's labor conditions, and step down as CEO, but those moments didn't weaken him. They refined him. When he walked away from the Amazon throne, it wasn't retreat, it was evolution. A chance to focus on space, AI, and energy, industries that could redefine civilization itself. And let's not forget his hunger for reinvention. Look at him today, physically transformed, emotionally sharper, and strategically freer than ever. He talks about space the way explorers once talked about oceans, not as fantasy, but destiny. And when Jeff Bezos says, "We're going to build a road to space so future generations can live there," you can't help but believe he might actually mean it. So here's the question. What do you give the man who already has everything? For Bezos, it's not another yacht, or another zero on his net worth. It's the infinite unknown, the thrill of turning science fiction into reality. Because while others chase wealth, Jeff Bezos is chasing forever. 3. Mark Zuckerberg, the coder who rewired human connection ***. What if the person who once just wanted to connect people ended up reshaping the very fabric of reality itself? That's Mark Zuckerberg, the quiet, analytical mind who turned a college project into a digital empire that now defines how billions of us live, think, and even love. In 2025, his fortune soars past $120 billion, but it's not just his wealth that keeps people talking. It's his vision, his obsession, and the eerie precision with which he's mapping the next frontier of human existence. Zuckerberg's story has never been about charisma or charm. He's not the kind of billionaire who commands a room with presence, he commands it with algorithms. Back in his Harvard dorm room, he coded the Facebook to connect classmates. What he accidentally unleashed was a global shift in communication. Suddenly, friendships, movements, even revolutions were being built on his platform. And while his peers chased fame, Zuckerberg chased something far more elusive: control over the world's social graph. But the empire he built came at a cost. Scandals over privacy, misinformation, and digital addiction turned his creation into a global mirror, reflecting both the beauty and the chaos of connection. Most CEOs would have flinched. He didn't. He pivoted. When everyone else tried to fix the old internet, Zuckerberg quietly began building a new one. His bet? The metaverse, an immersive digital world where people can work, play, and live through avatars in infinite spaces. In 2025, the metaverse isn't just an experiment anymore. It's a trillion-dollar ecosystem, with Meta leading the charge. From AI-driven virtual offices to lifelike social experiences, Zuckerberg's vision is evolving into something even his critics can't ignore. He sees technology not as a tool, but as an environment, and he's determined to be the architect of it. What's fascinating about Zuckerberg isn't just his intellect, it's his relentlessness. When others see failure, he sees iteration. When others mock his robotic tone, he sees efficiency. And while most billionaires talk about innovation, he quietly builds it line by line, update by update. So, ask yourself, is Mark Zuckerberg building the future, or rewriting humanity's software for his own design? Maybe both. But one thing's undeniable: his influence stretches beyond wealth, beyond Silicon Valley, into the unseen code that defines our daily lives. Because when Zuckerberg looks at the world, he doesn't see people scrolling. He sees a planet still waiting to be fully connected. And he's not done writing that story yet. 2. Larry Ellison, the relentless visionary who turned data into dominion ***. Imagine a man who treats competition like warfare and business like a game of chess. Every move deliberate, every opponent underestimated. That's Larry Ellison. While others chased innovation, Ellison chased domination, and in 2025, the Oracle founder still stands as one of the wealthiest and most formidable titans in tech, worth over $150 billion and counting. But money was never the true prize for him. Control was. Larry Ellison's story isn't the typical rags to riches narrative. Born to a single mother and adopted by relatives in Chicago, he was never supposed to become a billionaire. Yet his hunger, not for wealth, but for significance, pushed him to create something monumental. In the late 1970s, while Silicon Valley was still a playground for dreamers, Ellison founded Oracle with one radical idea: that data, organized and controlled, would become the most valuable currency of the future. He was right. What set Ellison apart wasn't just his intellect, but his obsession with precision, both in business and in life. He built Oracle like a fortress, weathering economic storms and fierce competition from giants like IBM and Microsoft. He was known for his arrogance, yes, but also his accuracy. He saw where technology was heading before most people could even describe the path. And while the dot-com bubble destroyed thousands, Ellison came out stronger because he understood the rule of survival: adapt or die. Fast forward to today, and Ellison's empire has evolved again. Oracle isn't just a database company anymore. It's a power player in AI-driven cloud computing, quietly shaping the digital infrastructure that governments, corporations, and banks depend on. And while his rivals chase the spotlight, Ellison operates like a silent general, building alliances, investing in defense technologies, and steering Oracle's future from his private island in Hawaii. But here's the twist: Larry Ellison isn't slowing down. In his 80s, he still talks about innovation with the fire of a startup founder. His recent focus on AI integration and cybersecurity shows one thing clearly: he's not clinging to the past. He's rewriting the next chapter. So what drives a man who already has everything: wealth, power, legacy? Maybe it's the same thing that's driven him all along: the thrill of control, the art of prediction, the need to stay just one move ahead. Because in Ellison's world, the game never ends, and the smartest player always wins. Michael Dell is a visionary entrepreneur whose story epitomizes the transformative power of ambition and innovation. From a college dorm room at the University of Texas, Dell launched a small business assembling and selling customized PCs, a venture that would eventually grow into Dell Technologies, one of the world's largest and most influential technology companies. What makes his journey compelling is not merely his success, but the philosophy behind it: a relentless focus on customer needs, operational efficiency, and technological foresight. Dell recognized early on that personal computing was not just a product but a revolution, and he positioned his company to ride the wave of digital transformation with precision and agility. Under his leadership, Dell Technologies expanded far beyond hardware, embracing enterprise solutions, cloud computing, and data management, reshaping the technology landscape for businesses and individuals alike. Michael Dell's influence is evident in the way companies worldwide adopt integrated IT solutions, reflecting his vision of a connected, efficient, and technologically empowered world. Beyond corporate achievements, his strategic thinking and willingness to adapt, demonstrated in taking Dell private in 2013 to restructure and innovate without market pressures, highlight his courage and foresight in navigating complex business environments. Dell's impact also extends into philanthropy and social responsibility. Through the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, he has championed education, healthcare, and economic empowerment, demonstrating that true leadership encompasses both wealth creation and societal contribution. Michael Dell's story is a testament to the enduring power of curiosity, resilience, and vision, showing that innovation is not merely about technology, but about understanding human needs and shaping the future to meet them. They say money builds empires, but vision builds worlds, and these 10 titans proved it. From electric dreams to digital kingdoms, each one changed the way we live, connect, and imagine the future. But the story doesn't end here. Somewhere out there, the next genius is already building tomorrow in silence. Could it be someone you know, or even you? If you want to keep uncovering the mind shaping our future, don't just scroll away. Like this video, share it with a dreamer, and subscribe. The next chapter starts with you.